I'm sat today in what remains of St Paul's Monastery in Jarrow, up in the northeast, on the banks of the Tyne. And the reason why this perhaps rather insignificant monastery by national standards is really important. Historically, it is as the place where the Venerable Bede lived and studied, and anybody who's done any kind of work, research on our early Christian history always ends up coming back to Bede. Bede himself is not known particularly for any great deeds, but what he was is the first person to write down the history of the country, and it was him who illuminated for us those dark centuries. We don't really know a lot of what happened, and he was the first historian in Britain, I suppose. And to me, that is really important, because we're used to saints who heal, saints who do miracles, saints who impart great wisdom. But I think the acquisition of knowledge and the imparting of knowledge is also a holy duty, and Bede is one of the very few examples of that, and he is somebody who's changed the world, and somebody who can also bridge that gap between believers and non-believers, because whether you believe in Christ or not, you can still appreciate the illumination that he gave to all our histories. So in the beautiful surroundings here, humble remains of the original 7th century church, here we have a statue to Bede of Jarrow. I'm outside the church now. The bit that's on the camera is the original bit. That next to it is a 19th century rebuild. And it really is a strange place, because on one hand it's so peaceful and so very ancient. I mean, look at the stones in that tower. And tranquil and reminiscent of times past. And this peaceful, almost idyllic England. And then next to it, we've got a pylon and shipyards. And I mean, if that's jarring enough, I mean, imagine what it would have been like in the 19th century or the early 20th century, when this really was an industrialised place. And of course, Jarrow is famous for two things. It is famous for Bede and these very early times, but it is also famous for its early 20th century socialist history. And from here, the Jarrow Crusade was started, where working people marched all the way to London to let the people in power know about the issues that they had, the fact that they were hungry, that there was no work. And on a personal level, that also means something, because a couple of years ago I went to a course with my trade union with a guy who'd been on a modern day Jarrow Crusade, and he'd marched all the way to London from Jarrow. He was a local lad, unemployed, had suffered with the depression, and they've been put up with by people or in sports centres or whatever all along the way. Sadly, both crusades achieved very little, and perhaps we have to remember that for every good person like Bede who has changed history, there are countless others who sometimes tried and failed, but it doesn't make their efforts any less noble. So here we are. This is St Paul's Monastery in Jarrow. Ahead of Steam Museum in Darlington, based in one of the world's oldest stations. I'm now sat in one of the original Stockton and Darlington railway carriages, and I have to say that this makes even Foxfield Notty coaches look primitive. I'm at the Head of Steam in Darlington, which is situated in the 1842 station on the Stockton and Darlington Railway, and I'm learning about what was essentially the oldest public railway in the world. It's fascinating stuff and really interesting because of my interest in tramways, and also because I've had a look at the Liverpool to Manchester railway things. There's some good stuff here. It's worth going to. Perhaps a little overpriced, but you know, I think it was £7.95 for the two of us. It was a bit steep, but apart from that, yeah, good. So stepping out, this is the station, and there's some nice old LNER locomotives. It's an 1845 locomotive called Derwent, and there's Locomotion at the end. And it's quite interesting how this is a very much more primitive form of the design that northeastern stations took on. Keep travelling. So I'm in the cab of LNER 901, and we're pulling into one of the oldest stations in the world. This is Locomotion. It's a kind of overspill from the National Railway Museum. It's pretty damn good, I have to say. I think this Baco set is the one that my dad had that we played with as a kid. Tommy, come on.